Okay, I'm back. Also back with my good mic and some better lighting, I think. Well, not from last time, but from usual. Okay, let me apologize first of all because I finally gathered all of my philosophy books that I have in my room, which had been in various boxes, which I hadn't identified earlier. So I made some videos showing you my philosophy books. I think the videos are titled Bookshelf Tour uh, part one of four, and then part two of four. So, but since then, the books have gotten yeah, mixed. And so you're going to see books that you've seen before. And the only way for me to prevent that would be to watch my first two videos and take out the books, but I don't want to do that. So I have books here on the bed. I have like these boxes. I have one, two, three, basically four boxes full of books here on the left. But in this video, I'm probably just going to do the ones on the bed and then one box over here. Okay, so I haven't really like organized these. So yeah, if I misspeak or misread or it's kind of slow, that's how it goes. Knowledge, reality, and value. This is by Michael Humer. I hadn't heard of Humor, but it was recommended. Like it got good Amazon reviews, which it's kind of hit or miss, especially when it's something like a specialty. Well, I don't know about a specialty when it's something like philosophy. Like most people aren't really like philosophers, but they review, and yeah, so you're not always getting the most accurate reviews on Amazon when it comes to philosophy books I've found. Speaking of my history of analytic philosophy, the founding fathers of analytic philosophy, G.E. Moore, this big book here, edited by Paul Arthur Schilp, Philosophy of G.E. Moore, the Library of Living Philosophers. I won't go into these books. Um, if you are wanting to learn about possible worlds, I found this to be as good a book as any. This is by Raymond Bradley and Norman Swartz. An Introduction to Logic and Its Philosophy. Good stuff. I've had this since college, so I've had it for a good 30 something years. Um, New thinking about propositions as I am into philosophy of language. So propositions are a big theme or a big topic. This is Jeffrey King, Scott Soames, and Jeff Speaks. Scott Soames, huge name. I didn't realize Scott Soames was uh, one of the authors. Well, political philosophy, which I don't really read too much. I read economic stuff and related to also a lot of like political thought. Uh, and I read like constitutional stuff and early American history and like government civic stuff. Political philosophy per se, I don't read too much, but yeah, stuff related to the Constitution, stuff talking about democracies and totalitarian regimes and things like that I read. But anyway, this is John Rawls. Everybody knows John Rawls. Um, this this is disjunctivism. And it's hard for me to explain disjunctivism, but you can be a disjunctivist, a metaphysical disjunctivist, an epistemological disjunctivist. I'm pretty sure an ethical disjunctivist. Um, yeah, so I won't even try to explain it to you because I'm not going to be very good at it. Logic of Philosophy by Theodore Sider. Sorry, Logic for Philosophy. So this is for people who are, yeah, this is like a good. This is probably um what's it called? Written for undergraduate philosophy students or those who have like a real interest in philosophy as laymen, this is the logic that you need that you'll see if you're reading philosophical texts. Like, yeah, so if you're reading Quine, Carnap, and other like, anyway, I think just everybody like logic is just like ubiquitous in philosophy, which I hate, but it is what it is. Another book, Disjunctivism by Soteru. I have this book. Then I have this old book, which I'm sure I picked up at a thrift store. It's Problems in the Philosophy of Language by Thomas Olszewski. Um, I'm curious a little bit. Uh, it's from the University of Kentucky. Um, I wanted to see the table of contents. Typical philosophy of language stuff. So yeah, no sense in reading it aloud here. Um, then I have this thick book. This is Aristotle, the basic works of Aristotle. So you can imagine what you're gonna find in there. Um, Another book, textbook that I picked up on the cheap at some thrift store. Logic and Philosophy: A Modern Introduction. Um, logic textbooks like these are usually hit or miss. Like I usually hate the way I hate their nomenclature, or I hate the way they teach derivations, or I hate the way they show how to solve derivations, or how they apply their inferential. There's always something that like everybody has their own way, like of teaching logic, or just using logic. Uh, I don't remember this one was it good or bad. This is by Hausman, Kahani, and Tidman. But uh, an extra learning a different way sometimes, or just getting a different explanation on something uh, helps. So yeah, if it's on the cheap, I pick them up. Philosophy Made Simple by Richard Popkin and Abram Stroll. In my previous video, I talked a lot about Stroll, and I told you that he does books with Popkin, and here's one of them. And this is actually a pretty good book. Philosophy is never going to be simple, but they do a pretty good job of yeah, talking to the layman. And I learned some stuff as I was reading this. I didn't read the whole book. But what I read was like, oh, okay, I thought I knew this. Well, I thought I knew about like Aristotle. Um, a Nietzsche book here, Human All Too Human. This is from the Cambridge series of books. This is translated by Hollingdale. Probably Hollingdale and Kaufman are the two most famous ones. And an introduction by Richard Schacht. Schacht, I think, also does translations. I'll put this over here. Another Nietzsche book. This is The Gay Science. This is edited by Bernard Williams. I also have the smaller Kaufman translation, which I read. I read that one. I haven't read this one. Um, Another book on Nietzsche here. Nietzsche's Task, an interpretation of Beyond Good and Evil. So I have an interpretation, basically explication of Beyond Good and Evil. And this is by Lawrence Lampert. This is very interesting take, very good explanation, I thought, of Beyond Good and Evil. And I also have an explanation of Genealogy of Moral, not by the same author. I don't know if it's going to be here. Actually, hold on, here it is. Nietzsche on the future of our, oh no, this isn't it. On the future of our educational institutions. Um, this one I haven't read. I don't know, just because the other ones are like more gripping to me, but just the topic. Translated and introduced by Michael W. Grenke. Okay. Um, Another Wadsworth book, Spinoza. This book is called An Introduction to Logic and Scientific Method, or by Morris Cohen and Ernest Nagel. Not Thomas Nagel, but Ernest Nagel is also a very well known, respected philosopher. Um, yeah, another book on logic. So I have that book. More on kind of metaphysics stuff and also philosophy language. Properties, that's why I said metaphysics, and propositions, that's why I said philosophy language. The metaphysics of higher order logic, Robert Truman. So also more logic stuff. My logic is not what it used to be. Um, okay. Counterfactuals, David Lewis, rest in peace. Um, Good stuff if you're into this kind of logic stuff. David Hume's, his famous treatise on human nature. I am not a fan of Hume and Berkeley and who's the other one from that area or from that period? There's one more that is escaping me right now. Anyway, I'm not a fan. I don't like the writing, and I don't want to like struggle through it. And I yeah, so I don't read Hume. Is that shameful to admit? I don't read Hume. I don't read Kant. I don't read Hume. I don't read Kant. I'm not proud of it, but whatever. I have too many philosophical interests, and they don't really play a significant role where I need to read them, so I don't. Um, this is Miles Burnett is not really a philosopher, but he's a good historian. And he's a good what's it called? What are those guys that study ancient classicists? So the Theaetetus of Plato, translation by M.J. Levitt. Okay, but I put it with philosophy because it's Plato. Another, this is the Aquinas's short Summa or shorter Summa. A lot of people mistakenly think that this is an abridged version of his full-length Summa. No, this is an original publication that he put out, that Aquinas put out as just a slightly different kind of publication than this longer one. So this is the shorter Summa. Very accessible stuff here, St. Thomas Aquinas. Um, who is the translator? Got to give credit where credit is due. Is it not going to say? Am I just missing it? I think I'm missing it here. I don't see it. I don't see the translator. Okay, it just says Sophia Institute Press. Maybe it's just like a team there. Although I'm starting. I think I kind of doubt it. Um, Frege. This is Michael Dummett. This is kind of like the book I was referencing, or I was making an allusion to in my example, where I say, I don't know. Actually, did I put that video out? Where yeah, I give advice to undergraduates, and I'm like, don't run to Dummett if you're going to try to understand Frege. Don't run to Dummett. Read Frege, pour over Frege, figure out what Frege is trying to say on your own, and like only as a last resort, time constraints, super confused, you're not getting anywhere. Okay, maybe go to Dummett and have him help you. Um, Although I don't know how much I would trust Dummett on Frege entirely anyway. But anyway, so shots fired. Um, this is a little curio book, The Philosopher's Toolkit. Um, when I went to so I transferred into UCLA from City College, Los Angeles City College. I also took some classes at Santa Monica City College. Um, anyway, like you think you're doing philosophy when you're like, let's say at City College, and you're like, okay, I'm pretty good at philosophy. I'm getting a bunch of A's in my classes, and and since I've taken classes at Cal State LA, I know what they teach. Those kids think they're doing philosophy when they're getting their bachelor's degree in philosophy at Cal State LA. I don't know about Cal State Long Beach. I just know Cal State LA, but they're not doing philosophy. It's nothing like the kind of like rigor and depth that is going to be required of them to write papers at like UCLA. And anyway, so but part of my learning curve at UCLA, what, and I think this is for everybody. You learn certain philosophical tools or ideas or concepts. Um, and this book has a lot of that stuff in there, like the use mention distinction, a lot of the informal fallacies, um, the de re de dicto distinction, what is priori a priori, what is what do they mean by synthetic? Um, anyway, let's see if I can like name some stuff here that, and you'll see like, oh, you might not have heard of it, or even if you've heard of it, you really can't like identify what's the difference. Um, okay, so obviously things like self-contradictions, the law of non-contradiction, tautologies. That's not too like foreign or esoteric. Um, then we have more advanced tools like abduction. Do you know what abduction is? Hypothetical deductive method, a dialectic, analogies, or yeah, um, anomalies and exceptions that prove the rule, an intuition pump. Uh, okay, then things like let's see, where's the ones I wanted to talk about as far as like an Elenchus and Aporia, Hegel's master-slave dialectic, Hume's fork, Leibniz's law of identity, Occam's razor, um, the is-ought gap, uh, Ceteris paribus. Um, I thought they had the de re de dicto in here. Um, what else? Sense and reference. Mm, necessary and contingent. What is it to subsist versus exist? A priori, a posteriori. Uh, yeah. So a lot of these terms, right, like straw man, red herring, question begging, affirming the consequent, or affirming the affirming the consequent, affirming the antecedent. No, now I'm confused. Anyway, handy little book. I wouldn't say rush out and get it, but okay, could be useful. This is a very interesting way to teach Stoicism. So what Farnsworth has done is he's teaching you what Stoics in general believe, but as he's doing that, he's giving you quotes from various Stoics to support what he's saying. It's a good way. You get in a lot. You get in some like history of Stoicism. You get to know some famous and not so famous Stoics, and you get explanation of Stoicism. So it does a lot in one book. I like it. Of course, I have another copy of the Philosophical Investigations. This is the reissued German English edition. So English on one side, German on the other. This is not the 50th anniversary. I already showed you that one. I have the hardcover book. Okay, so yeah, Wittgenstein, my favorite philosopher. Um, maybe my second favorite to Nietzsche, which is blasphemy because I'm an analytic philosopher. Uh, again, for disjunctivism, new issues in epistemological disjunctivism. So this focuses on the epistemological topics that come up with disjunctivism. This is by Case Doyle, Joe Milburn, and Duncan Pritchard. Duncan Pritchard is a pretty big name. This is from the Routledge Studies in Epistemology. It's very nice little hardcover book. Another epistemological disjunctivism, Duncan Pritchard again. Hardcover book, pretty thin, good stuff. I don't know if one day I'll try to tackle disjunctivism again. Like it's hard. It's hard. It's a hard topic to like grasp, but to like I can imagine like what it's going to take to like master that topic and maybe even like make some headway and make like yeah, like get a get a good nice deep understanding. Um oh, I already showed these. This book was when I was an MA student at Cal State LA. Terrible, terrible education there. Um, this is Moral Psychology. This is volume three. This is for one of my ethics classes. The neuroscience of morality, emotion, brain disorders, and development. I think this has nothing to do with ethics. All of this, like psychology and science and disorders, and like it can be used to make ethical arguments, but I think ultimately ethics doesn't need any of this. Um, anyway, I have that book. Sense and Sensibilia by J.L. Austin, very famous book. Little thin book here. I need a copy of another copy. This one's came written in one of my few books that I have a lot of writing. I didn't see it. A Nietzsche Untimely Meditations. This is translated by Hollingdale. There's an introduction by J.P. Stern, but I don't know who that is, so that doesn't really mean much to me. Okay, so I have that book. One of the philosophers, logical positivist, Rudolf Carnap, The Logical Structure of the World and the Pseudo Problems in Philosophy. If that sounds like Wittgenstein to you, it's not a coincidence. This is translated by Rolf A. George. Rolf, got to be German, right? Rolf. Um, okay, so Carnap. I'd like to understand Carnap a little better, but I think I have to brush up on my symbolic logic and yeah, I don't know when that's going to happen. I have another book here that is not philosophy exactly, but since I have an interest in like concepts of like infinity and time and identity over time, persistence over time, and just like I don't know, just like a little bit of sciencey stuff. Um, I have Stephen Hawking's A Brief History of Time. This is just a good read, I think. If you're like, even if you're not into philosophy, you're gonna enjoy this book. Um, okay, I'll put this here. Informal Logic, a handbook for critical argumentation by Douglas and Walton. I've never been happy with these books that I buy for informal logic. They're okay. They're not but I've yet to find a great book on informal logic. And I think honestly, for like 90 to 95% of people out there, like even philosophy students, just learn your informal logic. Forget formal logic. Forget it. Forget first order logic, second order logic, sentential logic, predicate logic. Forget it. Meta logic. Forget it. Get really, really good at informal logic, and you're going to save yourself a lot of thinking mistakes. You're going to save yourself from a lot of bad inferences. Um, so yeah, I like to pick up these books once in a while. I'll get a student who's interested, just like a high school student, and they're like, "Oh, I want to like be able to argue better, or I just want to be able to think better." And I always recommend some kind of informal logic book. I teach them like I just come up with my own lessons sometimes, but it'd be a lot easier if I had a good book to use. Is like, yeah, we can use together. So not bad, but not great. Um, There's some ancient philosophy here. The Theology of the Early Greek Philosophers, by Werner Jaeger. Maybe Werner? I don't know. I think it's just gonna be Werner. Werner sounds kind of wishy-washy. Werner. Who calls a kid Werner? I think it's Werner. Anyway, it doesn't matter. So I have this book. I won't go into it. And then finally, I saved here is a four-book series by Anthony Kenny. Kenny's a big name in philosophy. I'm trying to put them in order here. Volume three, volume four, volume one, volume two. Um, I said in my previous video, I like the history of philosophy. I like I like the history of ideas. Like it doesn't matter, it doesn't have to be philosophy, just the history of ideas. And so, yeah, and history in general. So here we go. This is Kenny, Ancient Philosophy. I also like the covers. They're not spectacular, but I like looking at them. Um, Medieval Philosophy. Oh, I should read the subtitle. Is there a subtitle? No. Okay. Yeah. So medieval philosophy. Um, the rise of modern philosophy. So here we're talking about Hume, we're talking about Berkeley, we're talking about what is that other philosopher's name? Anyway, and then and of course Kant is famous for like responding to Hume. And then philosophy in the modern world, which is more contemporary stuff. It's not, yeah, when you see like modern philosophy, don't think we're talking about 19th, 20th century. We're not, prior to that. Okay, and then yeah, and then this one. So I have these books. Some of these books might make it onto my shelf here because a few of these books I think are going to come off just because of like my focus. All right, that's it. I have more books here that they're in hand's reach, but they're inside a box and it would be kind of clunky. Um, you know what? I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna take out the books that are in one more box here. And the problem is like where am I gonna put them? Okay, so I'm gonna set these aside here. So forgive me here for like a minute. I should stand up, but I feel like I'm going to pull out the cables. I have my headphones. I'm plugged in here, and I have my speaker here, and I don't want to disrupt. Okay, if it doesn't work, I'll stop it, but I think I can kind of manage it, and I want to keep going. All right, can I get this box? Okay, I did it. And again, I don't know if you've seen these books before. More Ancient Philosophy, The Pre-Socratics by Edward Hussey. You little hussy. Maybe he's Husey. Um, I guess it doesn't matter where I put them because I'm gonna have to rearrange them. More early Greek philosophy stuff. The Pre-Socratics again. This one is by Kirk and Raven. Nice little book. I flipped through it for several. No, 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 no. I lost my other light. Crap. Okay, it doesn't matter. Um, Christian Political Theology, a Marxian Guide. I don't know if this is more like political or like, yeah, yeah, political thought, but it's in my box here. So anyway, I gotta recharge my little light. The Profile of Mathematical Logic by Howard DeLong. That's what she said. Um, Readings for Logical Analysis. This is by Stephen R.C. Hicks and David Kelly. I'll put these two together. Is this 1 and 2, or is this 2 and 1? Yeah, 1 and 2. I got Herbert Spencer's Ethics, The Principles of Ethics by Herbert Spencer. Introduction by Tibor R. Machan. Um, Book volumes 1 and 2. Nice little set here. Another Wadsworth book on Hume. Like I said, I didn't understand Hume. I needed this book on Hume actually. Um, Another early Greek philosophy stuff. The First Philosophers, the Pre-Socratics, and the Sophists, or the Sophists. A new translation by Robin Waterfield. Oxford Classics Books. More on Quine, not more on Quine, but this is a book on Quine, and Quine is another person who I can't understand because just too much logic in there. Okay. Let me pull these out. These four go together. This is another history of philosophy. Let me put them in order for you. And volume 1, part 1, volume 1, part 2, volume 2, part 1, volume 2, part 2. Okay. This is the first four of Copleston's famous History of Philosophy series. Um, these are small books. This is just four because I wasn't sure if I was going to like them, and I found this set on eBay. Um, I think once I move out again and have my own place again and have my bookshelves where I can have my books, I might finish this collection little by little. I'll pick up if it's on the cheap because yeah, this is not. Although I like the history of philosophy, I'm really interested in the history of analytic philosophy and questions in philosophy of language, questions in epistemology. Um, I like ethics, but like I think it's pointless to like not pointless to do ethics, but like you never get anywhere with anybody in ethics. It's kind of like this is my view, here it is, and do you agree? And that's it. And like you're not gonna debate anybody when it comes to ethics. But anyway, so and you're not gonna refute anybody when it comes to ethics. That's the sad part. But I think my arguments are good. Anyway, so I have this. Um, because Kant is notoriously difficult to understand. Critique of practical reason. This is his response, basically to this is translated by T.K. Abbott to Hume. A very good philosopher, Thomas Nagel. Mortal Questions. Uh, another Wadsworth book on Carnap. This again, I need these Wadsworth books for like I need secondary sources for like Quine and Carnap and like Hume. But I didn't take a class on Carnap. I just got this because yeah, I was trying to understand Carnap, and I found that book pretty cheap. On Man in the Universe. This is by Aristotle. I haven't seen that book in ages. I'm trying to dig into the boxes. Maybe you can figure out. Ooh, I'm grabbing the book one by its cover only. Leibniz, another one I don't really read too much, but Basic Writings, Discourse on Metaphysics, Correspondence with Arnaud, and Monadology. He believed in monads. Um, yeah, this book was 95 cents when it was first put out. Anyway, I have that book. I have a copy of Meditations by Marcus Aurelius. I don't know if you really can't make that out because of the white. Anyway, not exactly philosophy, but anyway, the number system. Um, I like a little bit of mathematical theory, number theory. Like yeah, I feel like I can't name it correctly. The philosophy of existentialism. I don't really read this stuff. This is Gabriel Marcel. Um, okay. Again, analytic guy, not existential reading stuff. But I like the topic. I like existentialism. And then who doesn't know like Sartre and Camus? This is more of a curio. Frege's annotation. So when he first started making his logic, he used, like I said, remember I said people who write logic books have their own way of their own nomenclature, their own symbols, their own way of like drawing derivations on paper, for example, their own way that they solve derivations, their own inference rules that they generally apply when they do these things. And Frege's logic is really cumbersome. So nobody studies Frege's logic to like use it. It's just a historical like thing. So anyway, I have it. Um, Meditations on First Philosophy, a little like Cliff Notes kind of deal. Translated from the Latin by Donald A. Kress. I thought it was written in French originally, but of course it makes sense that it was written in Latin. Um, yeah, I don't know how good that is. I've never read that one. This is a book from my undergraduate years. When you take when you get in when you part of the curriculum to get a bachelor's degree in at UCLA in philosophy is you're going to have to take uh three, like, what are they called? When I forget what they're called, when like there's like a 500 people room. There's like 500 students in this class, and they're all taking this class at the same time. It's a like a lower division requirement. This one is ancient Greek philosophy. So this was, but I took them out of order. I think the first one I took was modern philosophy, and then I took ancient Greek. Anyway, this is a nice little book from Thales to Aristotle, um, edited by Mark Cohen, Patricia Curd, and CDC Reeve. And you'd have the usual suspects in here. Um, the Milesians, Thales, Anaximander, Anaximenes, Pythagoras, and Pythagoreanism. Can I say that? Uh, Xenophanes, Heraclitus, Parmenides, Anaxagoras, Empedocles, Zeno of Elea, the atomism of Leucippus, and Democritus, Diogenes of Apollonia, Melissus, the sophists like Protagoras, Gorgias, Antiphon, Critias, and then more. Then of course you get Plato. Um, we get translations by Grube, who's a very good Plato translator. I have Grube's translation of the Republic somewhere. I don't not here, and I haven't seen it in a long time actually. He has part of Euthyphro, Apology, Credo, Protagoras, Gorgias, Meno, Phaedo, Symposium, parts of the Republic, Parmenides, Timaeus. Then he has a bunch of Aristotle, and then that's it. Like, but it's good. It's pretty good. The readings are well chosen. Um, okay, let me pull up the last three here. Some William James. I've never been much into William James, but I have a couple of his books. This is Essay in Radical Empiricism, introduction by Ellen Cappy Suckiel, and preface by Ralph Barton Perry. I know neither of these people. Okay. Um, oh, that's who it's Locke. I couldn't think of Locke. Locke, Hume, Berkeley. So here is the empiricists. Um, Locke, an essay concerning human understanding, abridged. Barclay, by the way, not Berkeley, Barclay. Principles of Human Knowledge, Three Dialogues, famous, and Hume, an inquiry concerning human understanding, Dialogues concerning natural religion. So I can't, those whole books can't be in here, but anyway, I have this. And then finally in this box is A House Divided. And the only reason I got A House Divided is because uh, he has a nice little explanation of the difference between analytic philosophy and continental philosophy. It's a divide that exists, but it's not like a neat divide. You can't separate the two groups neatly where nobody overlaps into the other group. There's a lot of overlap, and it's kind of hard sometimes to even like make a case that there is such a distinction, but generally people recognize this distinction between uh, analytic philosophy and continental philosophy. I won't go into it. Anyway, so those are the books. Um, I have three more of those boxes sitting over here. Uh, I think one of them has a bunch of Nietzsche books, and then I don't know what the other two have. So that's it for now. I won't continue with this video. I'll make one more video, maybe two more videos. Okay, see you. And I gotta recharge my light here. Later. Click once, then I gotta click again.